Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode on the podcast. I'm yet again joined by my co-host, Oscar. How's it going over there in America?
It's pretty darn cold over here, and I'm a little feeling a little crummy myself because of the weather. But nonetheless, the fight should cheer me up this weekend. We got a really good main event.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, a fantastic main event this weekend. Paulo Costa versus Vettori. Oh man, we're for an absolute treat this weekend. I'm very looking forward to it. But we had some fights last weekend. I'm sure you want to talk about them. So should we start at the top of the card, the main event, Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. What's your thoughts on that fight?
All right, so we'll talk about what Norma Dumont did because that's what a lot of people are ignoring. Everybody's talking about what Jim West was saying to Aspen in the corner, but I'll focus on the winners here. All right, so Norma Dumont was able to do whatever she really wanted to against Aspen Ladd for the first 4 rounds. Aspen Ladd was super tentative, and a lot of people were acting like this was something kind of new. This was a really long layout for her, but if you remember in the Yana Kunitskaya fight, she was very tentative as well. I kind of feel like the Germaine de Randamie knockout loss affected her confidence. And we're really not seeing the same Aspen that we saw in previous fights now. Norma Dumont was simply the better fighter on this night. She was not afraid to throw, but honestly, I feel like she should have performed better. Considering Aspen Ladd was so tentative, she could have gotten a finish, but yeah, not enough. Aspen Ladd, everybody's crapping on Jim West, but the longer he went on, the harder he went on. Aspen Ladd did win that 5th round, so if it works, it works. So that's all I have to say about that. I have no problem with what Jim West said in the corner. It was really the optics of it. If it was a guy being told that, people really wouldn't even have batted an eye at it, to be honest. But Norma Dumont might be in line for a title shot. That's how this division kind of works. You kind of just get a win and you're eligible for a title shot. It's either that or Holly Holm, who really doesn't have much options at bantamweight. So these two will be in the featherweight division for the foreseeable future. Maybe Aspen will join them as well. But right now, Norma Dumont did not impress as much as she needed to guarantee a title shot, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think after this, I feel like the winner of this one maybe got a title shot. But just there's not many girls in that 145-pound division that are really. Well, I think there's 2 or 3 maybe legit 145-pounders that we have in that division. It's not the most stacked of division, we could say the least. But yeah, Dumont, I think, definitely earned herself a title shot with this performance. I wouldn't say it was, as you mentioned, I wouldn't say it was a good performance. She's done what she needed to do. And Aspen Ladd, for me, just didn't show up. She didn't look that she was there, all there, sort of. As you mentioned, she looked a little bit timid, didn't want to throw. Her coach went in the corner, just trying to get her, riled up and trying to get her ready for the fight. But it just seemed like she wasn't all there for the fight. Not too sure if anything was going, backstage or anything like that. But she just didn't look ready for a fight. She looked like she was content on losing, which blew my mind.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that Aspen Ladd rose to the top so quick. I feel she's kind of a victim of her own success. I feel like she's still very much a developing fighter. She's not even 30 yet, and she's learning these tough lessons, like in main events or co-main events. She's at the top, and there's a lot of spotlight on her downfall. So it's harder for her than it would be for somebody, say, losing on the prelims, because there's so much attention on her losses.
Yeah, 100%. Where would you see Aspen Ladd go from here? Do you reckon she tries to make another run at 135, or do you reckon the UFC say, you know what, that's done?
Honestly, I just am very curious to see what the UFC plans for this division, because they have very few fighters in the division, and I think Aspen Ladd could be a good addition to it. Daniel Wolf has really nobody to fight right now. Maybe that's the fight to make, even though it would not be competitive whatsoever. That's a real possibility. And at bantamweight, there are options for Aspen, but who's going to take the fight? You can't really trust her to make weight. So that might be that might be the move for Aspen. Go up to featherweight where people won't be tentative to take the fight because they know she'll make weight and she doesn't even have to cut weight.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And as we mentioned, yeah, it's a good performance for Dumont. She did what she needed to do, and Aspen Lad never shown up. And I thought the corner work was fantastic. I enjoyed it because he was doing the right things. He said the right things. He was trying to get his fighter ready for a fight, and it was just she never took that in board. It seemed she never really it took the what am I looking for? Never took the advice. And never got his. If she brought his energy to the fight, she might have won.
Yeah, I agree. Aspen Ladd just had a complete off night, and Dumont took advantage of it and got a pretty dominant unanimous decision. That's about it for the main event there. Kind of didn't feel like a main event. Kind of felt like we were still itching for some kind of big fight, but it just wasn't the one to deliver. But Andrei Arlovski has been delivering as a 42-year-old heavyweight. Who would have thunk it? 10 years ago, they were counting him out thinking it was time to retire after a 4-fight skid. And now he's beating a young 26-year-old Carlos Felipe by unanimous decision. Like I predicted, Andrei Arlovski is just too elusive for Felipe. He's not going to get into the brawls that give Felipe the closing of the space he needs to land those bombs. And Felipe clearly did win that third round, but that second round was pretty close. But Felipe was not landing the same strikes he would have landed on other fighters that have less experience than Arlovski and less head movement. So Arlovski uses head movement and his elusiveness to do just enough to get the decision. And I'm very impressed to still see him winning at this age.
Yeah, 43 years of age and he's still going strong. It's fantastic, and it is brilliant to see such a old grizzly veteran still getting these wins inside the UFC. We've seen in the past these older fighters tend to fall off in their career, but Arlovski just seems to be doing it recently. He did it against Chase Sherman, and now he's doing it against Carlos Felipe. A fantastic young fighter, definitely has a good future in front of him. But Arlovski, is a test for anyone in the heavyweight division. To get to the top of the heavyweight division, you've got to get past Andrei Arlovski, and he failed. So there will be another night for Carlos Felipe, but he's got to go back and work on things. And Arlovski, man, I don't think he ages. It's incredible to see what he's doing. But the thing that we did learn is that the cardio is still not the greatest, but we can blame that on the age. In that third round, at the end of the second round and the third round, Arlovski was looking very, very tired, but so was Felipe. So it was a fantastic fight. I very enjoyed this one. I was looking more forward to the co-main event than the main event myself.
Yeah, Arlovski, of course, who won't slow down eventually, especially at he had a deep volume for an Arlovski fight. Arlovski doesn't throw a ton, but he was throwing a good amount in this fight. And of course, he did slow down. And I think younger guys could definitely take advantage of it, but I don't think Felipe was the one to do it. And you want to talk about guys that weren't the one to do it. Eric Gonzalez was not the guy to send Jim Miller to retirement. Jim Miller looked unbelievable with a KO win in the second round. This was unbelievable. I had money bet on Jim Miller to win by submission because that's his path to victory these days, but this time around, Jim Miller just let those hands fly, and he was able to put away a young UFC debutant. And once again, Jim Miller teaches another young prospect a lesson in an epic fashion, getting himself yet another performance of the night bonus. What do you make of Jim Miller's unbelievable KO here?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic one-punch shot. And who knew Jim Miller had that? It was crazy. That might have been his first KO since UFC, I think they said on the broadcast, UFC 199, I believe.
200 against
200. There we go.
It's Gomi, I believe it was Gomi fought. Yeah.
Oh, Takumi Gomi. Yes, that's correct. But yeah, fantastic to see Jim Miller still doing it as well. Andrei Arlovski, he's still going strong, and Jim Miller, oh my God, he's still going strong, and he set a record for the history. What was it? The most fights inside the UFC?
Yes, he surpassed Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So that's an unbelievable accomplishment with 38 fights within the UFC.
Yeah, and he's still going strong, which is absolutely incredible. I know Donald Cerrone wants to go back down to lightweight. Maybe a Jim Miller Donald Cerrone matchup at lightweight. That would be entertaining to say the least.
Yeah, the first fight didn't go too well for Jim Miller. Probably would be more competitive this time around, to be honest. Donald Cowboy Cerrone just has not been looking himself as of late, so I think it would be a more competitive matchup. I know this is unrealistic, but Jim Miller did call out Tony Ferguson. In the form we've seen of Tony Ferguson lately, I don't even know if I could pick Tony Ferguson in that fight. And Tony Ferguson is one of my favorite fighters to watch ever, but that's really unfortunate. But Jim Miller, just don't count him out just yet. He might as well fight at UFC 300 and be the only guy to fight at UFC 100, 200, and 300. That's a real possibility.
I know Bobby Green is matched up. So maybe if Bobby Green comes through, maybe Jim Miller, Bobby Green, that would make a lot of sense. Or have they not fought already?
I personally thought that. No, they were booked this year, but Bobby Green fainted at the weigh-ins, so the fight was called off. What I believe would be the right move for Jim Miller would be Mark Madsen. Mark Madsen recently fought Clay Guida, and I wasn't too impressed. Before I saw the strike numbers, I actually thought he lost the fight. So I don't know if he's above that legend hump yet. I think Jim Miller would be a much more difficult fight for him. So that's what I think should be booked next for Jim Miller.
You mentioned some key words there, impressive and difficult fights. And I just want to talk about Mona Farrout. I think she needs a little bit of a step up in competition now. Last week we were talking and you said you didn't know whether the hype was there. You didn't know what she was all about. But now this week, do you know what she's all about?
Yeah, I actually sent out a story saying that Manon Farrow was the real deal, and she shared it. So I have been swayed. I have jumped on the Farrow train, and I'm riding it until the wheels fall off when it clashes with the bullet train in the title picture. But yeah, this was exactly what I needed to see out of Manon Farrow. She took the fight to the ground on 2 occasions, and she was not intimidated at all by Bueno Silva's guard, which her guard has proven to be the end of fight for many better grapplers, I think, than Farrow. Jillian Robertson and Mara Barella both were submitted by armbars. I was thinking this is going to be the same scenario. And also, I had picked Mara Bueno Silva in this fight because I thought that fight would go to the ground at some point. Bueno Silva has 0 takedowns in the UFC, so like, I'm not too sure about this one, but I'm confident enough in Silva's BJJ that she'll get it done. And no, it was not good enough. Farrow is a good defensive fighter on the ground and offensive as well. And her volume was unbelievable. And I don't want anybody doubting her gas tank from here on out, because 291 total strikes attempted. That's very impressive. And she wasn't breathing super hard at the end of the fight either. So the high output, high volume, and bad intentions, and also showing some well-roundedness, that's all I need to see. And I can't wait to see her take a step up in competition. Bueno Silva, of course, did not do what she needed to do offensively. She was decent defensively, but she just wasn't returning fire, and that's what lost her this fight. And I would love to see a rematch somewhere down the line, because I think both these women will only get better. What do you think of this fight? Because I personally thought it was the fight of the night.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. The fight of the night. We weren't very blessed with good fights on this card, but this is the fight, what really stood out for me. Is not only was I excited going into the fight card, I was really looking forward to see how Farrow gets on. And I was just excited to see a fight. Again, she's a real prospect, and I'd love to see her go to the top of the division. She's a killer, and she's the real deal, as you mentioned. She is the real deal. We talked about her last week. I believed in her, and this performance just makes me feel like she can go all the way to the top. But the next move I would do for the UFC, I'm matching her up with Miranda Maverick.
Wow, Miranda Maverick was actually kicked out of the rankings and replaced by Farrow. So I'm sure Maverick is not happy with that. So that one could make a ton of sense. I also thought that the Antonina Shevchenko fight could make a ton of sense, just to see how just how the striking styles would match up there, because Ferro does take things to the ground, but I feel like she would want to improve her striking there. That would be really fun to see someone down the line. And you want to talk about fun. Any Nate Landwehr fight is fun. This guy always comes to scrap, and he proved it here, and he proved it as the biggest underdog on the card. Ludwig Klein was one of my most confident picks. I thought he would starch Landwehr, and Landwehr might have gotten cut if he lost this. But Landwehr just would not take no for an answer in this fight. He went forward, he landed clear strikes, rocked Klein, tired him out, and stuffed 2 takedown attempts from Klein, and eventually got the submission, the Anaconda choke in the 3rd round. This was really great by Nate Landwehr, and I was one of the people doubting him, and I don't doubt him like I once did. And I kind of feel like the hype on Klein was not warranted after 2 super underwhelming performances.
Yeah, I had a lot of hype, to be honest, on Klein. It was the Shane Young debut. It was a beautiful knockout, and that really swayed me. And I thought, wow, he's a killer. And then he lost against Mike Triziano, and I thought, you know what, maybe he had a bad performance that night. And then, this fight here, I thought, this is a very good fight for Klein. I feel like he can go in there, starch Nate Landwehr, and the odds also backed me up with that. And Nate was just like, no, I'm not having that. And this guy is exciting. Every time he fights, there's a little bit of blood. And man, he's exciting, but he's even better on the mic. He's incredible on the mic. And I just love his post-fight interviews, his post-fight speeches. And as you mentioned, this was his last fight on the deal in the UFC. And he called for him to, he called in the post-fight. He said that this win might have just got him another shot. And I agree. I think this performance got him another contract inside the UFC. I really believed a lot in Klein, and as you said there, maybe that win didn't warrant the hype, and maybe a little bit is fallen off, and the train is stopped for now.
Yeah, but the Nate train keeps going on. Really entertaining stuff from Nate. And if you want to talk about somebody that would not be stopped, we're talking about Bruno Silva getting a 3rd round TKO over Andrew Sanchez. Andrew Sanchez was dominating this fight in the first 2 rounds. He was able to accrue 7 minutes and 53 seconds of control time, in fact, and he was landing many illegal groin shots. And in the 3rd round, when the last illegal groin shot is landed, he gets a point taken away, and Bruno Silva gets a little moment to rest, and he's clearly angry because of those fouls, and he comes out super aggressive. And we mentioned on this podcast last week there could be a 3rd round scare for Andrew Sanchez, and boy was there ever. He was basically a punching bag for Bruno Silva. As we mentioned, Andrew Sanchez in 3rd round is not that great defensively and will leave himself open, and he left himself open for really big bombs from Bruno, and eventually he was finished. And Bruno Silva proved to the fans that he can go 3 hard rounds, because those first 2 were looking really bad for him. But this is a really great comeback TKO.
Yeah, it was a fantastic fight. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. If you were watching the first 2 rounds and then you tuned in for the 3rd round, if you looked at the state of the fighters, you kind of thought that Silva was winning the fight, because Andrew Sanchez, as you mentioned, the cardio, it was pretty much gone at that point, and he was pretty much a punching bag. Silva took a lot of damage in the first 2 rounds. Thoroughly got dominated, and then that 3rd round, he comes out like a Batman out of hell and just puts the pressure on and gets the finish. And I think the groin shots were needed to get him motivated, because that pissed him off, as you said, and it got him the finish. And as you mentioned, Andrew Sanchez was just a punching bag. He totaled up, wasn't looking good. But Bruno Silva, man, he has heart, and he showed it in this fight. It was a fantastic comeback, but come from behind win.
Yeah, and Bruno Silva was the favorite here. I didn't think he deserved to be in that spot, but now he definitely convinced me. And somebody that was somehow able to convince the judges that he won was Danny Roberts. He got a very controversial split decision against Ramazan Emeev. Emeev was one of the biggest favorites on the card, another one of my most confident picks, and he came up short here against Danny Roberts. Did you agree with the judges?
I didn't agree with a 30-27.
Oh my, yeah, that was absolutely egregious. I have no idea how you would give the first round. To Roberts, that was the most definitive round of the entire fight. But Meave, I'm telling you, as a big favorite, he's just not worth betting because the fights are always close. They're always somehow close. It looks on paper like he should dominate, but he doesn't. But I have to give a ton of credit to Danny Roberts for stuffing a good amount of takedowns in this fight. And I was very impressed with his grappling here. It definitely appears like it improved. And on the feet, he was the guy doing more damage. But I don't see how you give him that fight, honestly. I don't think he did enough. Meave actually outlanded him in every round. But I guess the judges just thought the more impactful strikes were coming from him. I was not particularly pleased with the judge's decision here. I lost a little bit of money, but whatever. These judges will do what they do in Vegas.
Yeah, it was a tough fight to call, a very close one, and I thought it could have went either way. But if I was leaning one person, I would have leaned Meave. It was just a very close fight. I thought Danny Roberts, as you mentioned, maybe landed a little bit more impactful strikes, but Meave stayed more busy. And as you mentioned, I was impressed with Danny Roberts' defensive wrestling. He looks really good. He defended 5 takedowns, which is, from a wrestler like Meave, incredible. So that definitely, and every time he got taken down as well, he got taken down 2 times. He would always seem to, work his way back up quickly. So if you're Danny Roberts, you're looking at that, you're thinking, well, that gives him a little bit of a. He probably takes that and he probably holds himself with pride with it because Meave is a fantastic wrestler, as I mentioned. But yeah, let's just say he got lucky this night. The Vegas, as you mentioned, the Vegas judges were with him this night.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that he was given a decision. I thought Meave did enough. And if you want to talk about another close decision, the next fight was pretty close as well. Lupe Godinez making history with the quickest turnaround in the UFC, fighting on back-to-back Saturdays against Luana Carolina, who is up a weight class and has once fought at bantamweight. We both stated here that we didn't understand Carolina being a 2-1 underdog when she was so bigger. And Lupe Godinez in post-fight interviews has now agreed with our sentiment that Carolina was just way too big. And this was short notice, so Godinez didn't have the taller bodies to work with to prepare for this. So she was not as comfortable as she would be against a smaller strawweight in there. So that's why Carolina was able to get her game going. But my goodness, off of her back, she does not have much to offer. Watching the fight, I thought Godinez might have won it. But when you look at the striking numbers, Carolina did outland her, and that's what got her the win.
Yeah, 100%. As you mentioned there, the reach advantage and the size advantage, as we talked about last week, it was just too much of a task for Lupe to try and overcome in 7 days. I give her credit, to try and make the history, or she made history for, having the quickest turnaround in the UFC history. But if she got it done, that would have been, phenomenal. She would have created even more history. But Khamzat Chimaev still holds that. Getting the quick back-to-back wins. I think it was Chimaev. What was Chimaev? 14 days?
No, I believe it was 9 days. There was a Wednesday card, and then he fought on the Saturday after that. Yeah, very impressive.
Oh my god, I forgot that the UFC did Wednesday cards. They did Wednesday, Sunday. Was it Wednesday, Saturday?
Yeah, for Fight Island, and which that could be hopping once again, to quote Dana White, after vaccination mandates are now being done for all fighters. So we could see a bunch of Fight Island events in the future. That's going a little off topic. We'll move on to my favorite KO of the night, Donna Baccarel against Brandon Davis. This was unbelievable. I was thinking that Baccarel was being overvalued as the favorite here. Donna Baccarel was able to finish 2 guys with durability issues in Natividad and I can't remember the other opponent, but Brandon Davis.
Goida.
Yes.
Cincinnati of Canati or something like that.
Yeah, Guido Canetti.
Yeah.
And Brandon Davis had never been knocked out heading into this fight, so I was thinking Donna won't be able to put him away. I think Davis probably gets some takedowns going, and it never really got going for Davis. Davis just once he got knocked down, he was unable to recover, and Donna Baccarat overwhelmed him with the power. I was very impressed with Donna. This was better. This was basically a perfect performance for him. Just 2 minutes in there, in and out. And I think he deserves a step up in competition after this. Maybe a guy like Tony Gravely would be the right move.
Give me Dana Bagriel versus Montel Jackson. That's what I want to see.
Wow, that would be a firecracker of a fight. That would probably see somebody get finished in that fight. Don Baccarat is one of the most entertaining bantamweights out there. If you've been watching, because he debuted with the fight of the night, and he's only got knockouts in the first round since then. So very, very entertaining stuff from Dana.
Yeah, 100%. A fantastic fight. And as you mentioned there, Davis, very durable. As you mentioned, never been knocked out in his career. And he's fought some absolute killers. You know, we're talking about Zabit, Giga. I can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, he's fought some absolutely phenomenal fighters. And for Dana to be the first one to knock him out when Davis has fought them caliber of fighters, man, his confidence is probably high right now. And I don't blame him. This guy's got absolute power in them hands. And it was fantastic the way he set it up. It was like an overhand. He slipped the jab. Every time Davis threw a jab, he left himself open. And Dana read that so well. And he threw Davis threw a lazy jab, and that was that boom over the top, and it connected perfectly. And I felt like Davis felt the power of his shots, and he kind of didn't want to be in there with Dana. He was Dana hits very hard, and we see it here. And as I mentioned, Dana Bagriel versus Montel Jackson. Give me that. Or maybe Ronnie Barcelos.
Honestly, I'll watch Dana Baccarat fight anybody at this point. He's always entertaining. He's so powerful. And if you want to talk about power, pure power, Ariane Carnelossi is always physically impressive in there. She was able to submit Estela Nunes in the third round, and she basically used her grappling to get the job done here. On the feet, Nunes would have the higher output, but on the ground, it's just overwhelming what Carnelossi had to offer. We both said that the pure physicality and aggression Carnelossi will take her far, and it did here. We saw that Nunes was clearly the most technical striker, but she just has a big hole in her game on the ground. And Carnelossi eventually got a submission here, which she's not known for doing. So Nunes has to go back to the drawing board and fix some things. On Carnelossi, every time we see her, she's looking better and better.
Yeah, 100%. It was a great performance, and I was very impressed with Carlos. I believe we both predicted this one corrected for us, if I remember.
Yeah, we both picked Carnelossi to win here. I didn't know she would have that much of an aggressive BJJ game on ground, so I picked her to win by submission. But really impressed with Carnelossi here, showing another ace up her sleeve.
Yeah, 100%. It was a great fight. But that was the card. That was Lad versus Dumont, a fantastic card. Fantastic. When there was some certain fights were fantastic. Wasn't the most exciting card, to say the least. The main event, as you mentioned before, it didn't really feel like a main event. We're really waiting for that big main event. We've not had one for a few weeks. I feel like we got one this weekend. I feel like we got a really good firecracker this weekend. Paulo Costa versus Vettori. But before we get to that, I want to talk about Bellator 268.
Oh boy, yeah, this was one of the best Bellator cards I would say in a while since the McKee Pitbull card. This was really entertaining, top to bottom. Vadim Nemkov defended his title against Julius Anglickas successfully, but that was not without a bit of a scare in that second round, wasn't it? He got rocked bad, and I was thinking Anglickas could really pull off a let me think of a good comparison. A Nama Yunus Joanna upset type of fight here, because it was a foregone conclusion for a lot of people that Nemkov would retain, because everybody's saying he's one of the best light heavyweights out there, and Anglickas, he was just an alternate, So not a lot of people knew Anglickas here. He doesn't even have 5,000 Instagram followers, but he almost put away the champion, and that's very impressive.
Yeah, it was a fantastic card from top to bottom. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But obviously it was the co-main event and the main event that really attracted me in this one. And obviously always excited to see Benson Henderson back, the former UFC lightweight champion, the former maybe WEC or Strikeforce champion, either one.
WEC, yes.
WEC, I thought so. But yeah, the one I was really excited to see Vadim Nemkov, because I feel like Vadim Nemkov is probably the best 205er outside of Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira. I think Vadim Nemkov is up there in the top 3. I feel like he's a real killer. And Glikas almost just shocked the world, as you mentioned. It was that, in that second round, almost blew the roof off the place. But someone who did blow the roof off the place was Corey Anderson. Oh my God. Yeah, what was it? 51 seconds is all it took for Corey Anderson to knock out Ryan Bader. And it was fantastic. These two are former training partners. They know each other's game inside out. And Bader had a little bit of trash talk heading into one. He said that Corey Anderson knew how the training sessions go. And that's why he knows who's the better man. And Corey Anderson shot his lights out in 51 seconds, and he silenced him and the doubters.
Corey Anderson is on a roll here in Bellator. He's now 3-0 with 3 TKOs. And Ryan Bader, let's not forget, the guy's the current heavyweight champion, and he went down a weight class for this one, and Corey Anderson put the lights on him with a perfect punch behind the ear, and Bader was unable to recover. I think Bader is a far more effective fighter at heavyweight. If you're watching the recent ones at heavyweight, he can put guys out very quickly. But in this weight class, it feels like he's not as durable. So that really benefited Corey Anderson in this fight. And now he has a title shot guaranteed against Nemkov probably next year.
Yeah, which is a phenomenal matchup, by the way. Vadim Nemkov versus Corey Anderson. This is a phenomenal fight. Vadim Nemkov is, very well-rounded. And then obviously, that wrestling offense from Corey Anderson can land at any minute in the fight. And as he just proved in this fight, he has hands too. But then this talk of Corey Anderson saying he's the best 205er, I don't really get it, because I believe Jan is better him, and if that fight goes again, I think Jan wins that fight 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, Corey Anderson isn't even a top 5 light heavyweight at this point. Let's not forget the guy was once put away by Jean Villante. Jean Villante has one of the saltiest records you'll see in the UFC. Truly, one of the saltiest records you'll see in the UFC. Corey Anderson always has serious durability issues. And Jan Blachowicz blasted him. We're not talking about some simple little TKO here where the ref stops him on the feet. This was a straight up lights out knockout. A knockout so bad, Corey Anderson a month later was going for a hike in the woods, and he collapses. He passes out. This was unbelievable brain damage he suffered at the hands of Jan Blachowicz. So I don't know how you can talk any kind of trash after that. He clearly beat Jan when Jan was underdeveloped back in 2015. So that's not fair at all. I don't even think Nemkov is top 3 either. I think Yuri Prochazka already proved he's better than Nemkov when he finished him recently. So I think both guys aren't even top 3. And Scott Coker will do what Scott Coker has to do. He has to promote his fighters. But I simply don't agree with the sentiment of these guys even being top 3.
Wow, you kind of made me eat my words there. I totally forgot about Yuri Prochazka. But as you were saying, I like Corey Anderson over in Bellator because he's having success, and I feel like he can, be that star over there at the 205-pound division in Bellator. Was never, at the top of the UFC division. He always got to the top and lost against the elite guys. But I like. It kind of makes me happy over there seeing him get success and winning. So hopefully he gets the belt against a tough matchup against Vadim Nemkov. That's a firecracker that I'm very looking forward to. But the rest of the card, we saw Benson Henderson lose against Brendan Pumice in a lightweight fight that arguably could have been for the interim or maybe the vacant lightweight title for Bellator, but they've gone for Patricky Pitbull versus Peter Queally instead. But yeah, the Bellator card was phenomenal top to bottom. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but we have a bigger card to talk about this weekend. Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori. So should we get straight into that? Go away.
100%. I can't wait for this one. This was the big main event we were waiting for, as we stated. These two men challenged Israel Adesanya for the middleweight championship in their last fight, and they're looking to bounce back from losses here. I believe that Costa has more to prove in this fight because he was stopped, because he was so tentative, and because he's coming off a long layoff. And Marvin Vettori, on the other hand, he actually thinks he won his last fight. So I don't know if he has the same motivation. If you watch that fight between Vettori and Adesanya, the second one, Marvin Vettori was not being an effective fighter really anywhere. The only time where he would have his moments would be when he would control Adesanya and land tiny little strikes, nothing truly significant. He was only looking to control, not really to advance his position or to do any real damage. He did get Adesanya's back, but unfortunately he didn't get the body triangle, and Adesanya slipped out of it. So it's very clear to me that Vettori is not a crazy good grappler, a better grappler than Paulo Costa, that's for sure. But if you remember Costa's fight against Romero, he was stuffing some Romero takedowns. But the problem with Costa in this fight here, it is 5 rounds. And he's only been scheduled for one 5-round fight in his career against Adesanya, and he didn't get out of the second. So we don't know what Costa would look like in championship rounds. He was definitely tired in that Romero fight, but that was a really good case. I'm thinking if Vettori can survive this early storm, he can win, but I don't know how much damage he'll absorb before then. He's super durable. He's proved that on multiple occasions, never been finished. But I think Costa does enough damage here to get a win via decision, which is crazy to think. But I think Costa is fairly durable himself, and he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I don't know if Vettori can stop him in those last 2 rounds. I think in the first 3 rounds, Costa does enough damage on the feet to sway the judges.
Yeah, I want to talk about this fight, and then after that, I want to talk about a topic that just popped up on my phone and almost broke my heart with a tweet. But yeah, we'll talk about this one. You went with Costa, and you feel like Costa's going to do more damage within the 25 minutes. But I'm going with Costa doing the more damage in the first 2 rounds, and then Marvin Vettori taking over in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and a very late stoppage. But Vettori, I'm gonna get submission here. I think Vettori takes him down in either the 4th or the 5th round, where I think Costa at this point will be absolutely exhausted. I think Vettori, to me, has proved that he has the better conditioning and the cardio out of the two, because he went 25 minutes with Adesanya, a hard 25 minutes. You know, Adesanya put the pressure on him throughout the whole every single minute of the round. We've seen Costa go hard 15 minutes with Yoel Romero, but I'm not too sure. I feel like Vettori has that main event experience, and I think he gets it done in the later rounds.
Yeah, Vettori's gas tank is not to be questioned. If you remember the Jack Hermanson fight, he actually sent a new middleweight striking record in that fight. More strikes were landed in that fight than there were in the great Adesanya Gastelum fight, in the great Whitaker Romero rematch. That fight was a straight up war, fought at a crazy pace, and it's very clear that Costa cannot fight at that pace. So if Costa can do well enough, I would say in the 3rd round, I think he beats Vettori by decision. I think he can somehow survive later in the fight, because I thought Vettori would be able to finish Kevin Holland, but he was unable to. So I don't know how great of a finisher Vettori is against these top 5 guys. That's why I won't. That's why I don't think Vettori finishes him. But I will pick Costa here because, as I mentioned in the Adesanya fight, where he had most success was not in striking one, was just control time. And I think that Costa just does more damage on the feet. There's a clear power discrepancy here that can't be ignored. That's why I'm picking Costa here.
Well, before I move on to the tweet that almost broke my heart, is there's actually a little bit of controversy going on with this main event. You've probably seen it on Twitter, and MMA Fighting just tweeted that Paulo Costa reveals he can't make middleweight for main event versus Marvin Vettori.
Oh my, this is unacceptable. Paulo Costa, we've said it before, and again, this guy probably does belong at light heavyweight. The guy is humongous, just like Yoel Romero. This is a huge bummer. Marvin Vettori recently said that that he heard the rumor of him not being able to make weight and he would take it a light heavyweight. This is very unprofessional by Paulo Costa. And, what's he going to do now? Is he going to blame the wine? I don't know. But very unprofessional. It's very upsetting. I hope it moves forward. I don't know if they'll do light heavyweight or if they'll do catch weight, but would that affect my pick here? I don't know. Maybe would. Maybe Costa having more weight, not as tough of a weight cut. Maybe more power could pull away Vettori here. But yeah, really unfortunate, and I hope this doesn't get canceled.
Yeah, Costa's announced that on the media day, and that my weight right now is 96 kilos, which is 211 pounds, and he has to get down to 185. He said what happened yesterday is his manager Walid Ismail talked with some people with him, and he talked to Ali, Vettori's manager, and he's not on schedule to make 185 pounds anymore.
That's very upsetting and very unprofessional. We've gone over this. Hopefully in the co-main event there's no drama whatsoever. Grant Dawson has now moved up and fears those weight cut issues are behind him. And I think this will make for a really fun fight between two former accomplished featherweights. What do you think of Grant Dawson being a 3-1 favorite against Ricky Glenn? Because Ricky Glenn fights at a furious pace. He's super well-rounded, and in his last fight, he showed he had a legitimate knockout power against Joaquin Silva.
Yeah, but before we get to that, I did mention I wanted to quickly talk about a tweet that just happened. Is my good friend Modestus Bukalkas has been released from the UFC. It just popped up on my Twitter, and that almost broke my heart because we have a very good relationship. We talk quite a lot, and when I watch him fight, it's just different because we have like a personal relationship. It was kind of hard for me to see that, but Khalil Roundtree did quote the tweet, and we said he wishes him all the best. And Khalil Roundtree is just a phenomenal gentleman, and so is Modestus Bukalkas, and he's injured and now released from the UFC. That's really, really hard for him.
Yeah, this might be rock bottom for him, to be honest. It's very unfortunate. I actually thought he beat Michal Oleksiejczuk. So had it not been for that, he probably would still be in there. I don't know, but yeah, really unfortunate. He was always an entertaining fighter to watch, clearly improving, but he was unable to show it against Khalil Roundtree, and yeah, the oblique kick really messed him up. And I'm surprised they didn't give him another shot. He was so entertaining.
Yeah, one thing I know about Modestus is he always has a smile on his face, and he never lets anything get to him. I believe this will be motivation for him, and I think we'll see him again back inside the UFC. But anyway, we're here to talk about UFC Paulo Costa versus Vettori, and as you mentioned there, Grant Dawson, 3-1 favorite. Is that justified? And in my opinion, if we saw Grant Dawson in the last fight against Leonardo Santos, he was two rounds down into that third, and it was 4 minutes and 59 seconds. What was he? It was something like that. He was 1 second away from losing the fight potentially. But do I believe Grant Dawson gets it done? Yes, I do.
Yeah, Grant Dawson is an absolute animal. He as well as Glenn fights at a great pace. He has excellent grappling. He's pretty tall for the division too. Ricky Glenn, I always thought was way too big for featherweight. I was sure that weight cut wasn't kind to him. Same for Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson has only lost by knockout. Could Glenn put him out here? Sure, but I feel like Grant Dawson is ahead in the grappling realm, and I think he'll show that here to win a unanimous decision. But don't think Glenn being a big favorite means that this fight won't be competitive, because I think it will be.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Grant Dawson is a phenomenal prospect, and we saw and his durability. We saw that in his last fight. As I mentioned, 2 rounds he was potentially losing, and in that third round, James Krause said to him, "You need to finish this fight," and he done so with them. Them gnarly hammer fists as well from like what stacked guard. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Grant Dawson gets this one done, and I'm very looking forward to the co-main event. I think this one's going to be a banger. This is going to potentially be fight of the night.
Yeah, there's many contenders on this card. This is actually a really sizable card. It's now has 14 fights on it, and this is one of the better ones on the card. Jessica Rose Clark is back after a year to fight Jocelyn Edwards. I really like this fight because I think it's probably going to stay on the feet. It's going to be a fun kickboxing match. Jessica Rose Clark looked better than ever in a recent fight last year against Jessica Alpar. Alpar, of course, we saw that she clearly wasn't UFC caliber. And Alpar actually has a win over Jocelyn Edwards. I think Edwards has improved by leaps and bounds since then. And I simply think that Jessica Rose Clark is the more powerful of the two. She can do better work in the clinch. And also, I think she's got the power edge here and the cleaner striking and the more educated striking. I think she's got the edge on the feet, and that's where the fight will stay. So I'm picking Jessica to get this done by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Justin Edwards is very long. I think this is quite similar to the Lupi versus Lara Carolina fight, I believe. I feel like Edwards will be too long, and the size advantage would be a little bit too much for Jessica Rose. Was she a former 125-pounder?
She was, but the weight cut was so tough on her. Her coach said, "I will not coach you until you move to bantamweight and stay there." So that's what she did, and she was very dominant in her last fight against Alpar. And didn't Jocelyn Edwards fight at flyweight before as well, or am I off on that?
I'm not too sure. I'd have to search that up. I've been distracted from another tweet that I've just found, which is blew my mind. Honestly, you saw it.
Well, you gotta drop it. You gotta let the people know, Lenny.
Okay, Kevin Lee pops for ADHD meds.
Oh yes, I heard about this yesterday on Chael Sonnen's MMA channel. He actually popped for Adderall, and he confessed that that he knew about it and that he messed up. If you don't know what Adderall is, just makes you more focused. That definitely is an advantage in an MMA fight. Yeah, not a good look for Kevin Lee, especially when he's not performing as well. He's only going to be suspended for a couple months, so it's not a huge deal. But we'll continue. If you have any words to say about what Kevin Lee did.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to continue back to the Jocelyn Edwards, the fight. I remember her debut against Yanu Wu, and I was really impressed with her striking. And I believe again this will be another striking clinic for her, Jocelyn Edwards. I believe the size, the reach advantage will be too much for Jessica Rose Clark in this one. And the only way she wins this fight is if she gets the fight to the ground. And does she?
Oh, one thing to note here with Edwards is she doesn't do a good job at checking kicks, and Jessica Rose Clark will probably beat up that leg, and I think she's gonna have higher output as well. I think this is a perfect recipe for the "told you so" fight of the week. The last one we had was, I believe, Jalen Turner against Uros Medic, and we know what happened there. So this is the "told you so" fight of the week, guys. Get hyped. Also, the next fight will get you very hyped as well. Alex Caceres against Doohoo Choi. This is Sungwoo Choi, I mean. This fight is a really good showcase fight, in my opinion, for Choi. Choi is on a roll here after losing 2 in his first 2 UFC fights. He was able to knock out Julian Rosa, who does have durability issues, but as of late, he's been able to weather the storm and make guys pay later, but Choi's power is just too much. And against Alex Caceres here, I think he can get a stoppage here. Caceres definitely has less power than him. I don't think Caceres will be able to challenge him too much in the grappling realm. I think this is a good matchup for Choi, and he's a 3-1 favorite for a reason.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when I was looking at, Caceres is a 145-pounder, and I thought, how does he make 145 pounds? And then you look at the size of Choi, and you're thinking, that's ridiculous. Like, honestly, he is huge at 145 pounds. And an interesting fact is that Caceres' brothers are both fighting this weekend. And if you didn't know, Caceres' brother is Jose Caceres, who beat Kamaru Usman.
I had no idea. I always that's a real shocker to me. Of course, Caceres is in the best form of his career right now. He's actually on a 4-fight win streak. But when you look at the names on that streak, not impressive at all. Super young Chase Hooper and some UFC debutantes on there. Not the most impressive streak of fights. And Choi is by far the toughest guy he's fought in a while. And Caceres has been put out before, and I think Choi will be another guy to do it in the first round. That's my prediction.
Yeah, Choi has he didn't have a great start to the UFC. He lost against he lost to David against Movsar Evelev, which is Movsar Evelev is a phenomenal fighter. And then he got submitted by Gavin Tucker, and then he bounced back with 3 wins in a row. The Yusuf Salau one, that was a really good fight. I remember the Yusuf Salau I thought was a phenomenal prospect, but unfortunately UFC matched him up, and one of them had to lose. But yeah, Choi got the better of him, and then obviously he beat Junior Rose, as you mentioned. He has that the durability issues. But does Alex Caceres take these shots? I think so. For the first round, I think he takes the shots to the first round, and in the second round, I feel like all the shots that he took in the first round will later come into play in the second round, and it just be a little bit too much for him, and eventually drop to his knees and suffer the TKO loss.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect fight to elevate Choi. I think Choi gets a top 15 fighter after this one. He's earned it by now. And we'll move on to a fight that I believe will turn into a slugfest quite quickly. Francisco Trinaldo, once again fighting at welterweight against Dwight Grant. That fight will likely be a knockout, in my opinion. The styles of both guys just lends itself to that. Trinaldo's never been knocked out. But you got to remember, he's getting older. I believe he's in his 40s now. And Dwight Grant on the other side, I really don't feel like he's made any improvements since his Contender Series fight. Dwight Grant always makes the same mistakes. He's got a really awkward style. And in my opinion, he lost the fight to Stefan Sekulik back a couple months ago. I thought like Dwight Grant clearly lost that fight. Same goes for the Alan Jouban fight. But Trinaldo in his last couple fights, he's been getting knocked down. Against Jay Herbert, he got knocked down. Same goes for the fight against who was it? Muslim Salikov, who's now number 15. He just keeps on getting knocked down, and when you get older, the chin's the first thing to go. And I think I just got a feeling that even though Dwight Grant's not super talented or technical on the feet, I think he might be the first guy to put away Trinaldo here, to be honest, because he does swing with bad intention, and the Trinaldo chin has to go at some point, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You said you didn't know the age of Trinaldo. He is actually 43 years of age, and he did fight for a very long time. He used to fight 155, but eventually that was a little bit too much for him. And now he's up at 170 pounds. But as you mentioned there, Grant, he swings wild, not the most technical, not the most pretty. If you're looking to, analyze his striking, you're probably not really wanting to watch Dwight Grant. His last KO win was in 2019 when he fought Carlo Padazzoli. It was in round 1, 4 minutes and 59 seconds. But if you look at the Grant, it's either kill or be killed. I feel like we saw it in the Daniel Rodriguez fight, where that fight was just wild. Rodriguez versus Grant, and if you're watching that fight, Daniel Rodriguez versus Dwight Grant, that's probably technically the worst fight you could ever watch. But if one of them connects, oh man, it's lights out. And Daniel Rodriguez connected first. And I feel like it's just the same story. I feel like Trinaldo's the better technical fighter. Could take, I believe he has the grappling advantage in this one, but will he get, is he going to take it to the grappling advantage? I don't think he gets to the legs of Dwight Grant. And I think Dwight Grant connects in the third round. I feel like Trinaldo will be a slow down a lot, and I feel like the third round will kind of come into play, and I think Grant stops it, and I think it's going to be quite a messy one in round 3.
Yeah, but both guys definitely slowed down in round 3, but you can't forget Trinaldo was able to knock out Jay Herbert in that third round. So Trinaldo, even though he slowed down, he stays dangerous. But I think Trinaldo, I believe that Dwight Grant is actually more dangerous, especially at welterweight, where I think Dwight Grant would never be able to make lightweight, while Trinaldo can. and Trinaldo's 43 of the UFC. They're looking to cut these older guys, and I think he might be another victim of that. Bumran, I think both of these guys are fighting for the jobs. That's a real possibility. Nikolai Negumereanu against Ike Villanueva. I think this fight likely doesn't see judges' scorecards. Both guys tend to get finishes. Villanueva, I really don't think he's UFC caliber. He was just one of these guys that was brought in during the COVID era. They needed short notice guys. He was one of the guys. And Negumereanu was a huge underdog against Alexa Kamer, and he overperformed in that fight. He was looking surprisingly well in that fight. I think Kamer would steamroll him, and that didn't happen here. This is very difficult to pick. I think Negumereanu is ever so slightly more technical, so I'll pick him to win. And I think I'll do it by decision. Villanueva is pretty tough. So that's my pick for this fight. What's your pick?
Yeah, as you mentioned, both guys, at least towards the Ika side, probably not UFC caliber. And we were talking about not pretty striking, and I feel like this is quite the same. Ika is not the best of strikers. If you see that big overhand right versus Vinicius Moreira, the big overhand right eventually put the lights out, but he's lost to a guy that me and you thought should definitely not be in the UFC. Was Jordan White? He lost to him. He got, but it was a doctor stoppage. To be fair, it was a cut. He did get he did lose to Chase Sherman as well. And then his last fight against Marcin Prachnau, and Marcin Prachnau, I think that he's a good fighter, Marcin Prachnau, but I don't think Iki's got it. I don't know how to pick this one. It's quite a strange one, but nonetheless, I'm going to go with. Oh God, help me out.
Yeah, you haven't even made your pick. This is so hard to make. To be honest, I think I don't think Negumereanu has business being a 2-1 favorite against really anybody. Villanueva does have a serious power on his side. Very tough one to pick, but what are you going to settle on?
I was going to go with how do you pronounce the one on the left?
Ike Villanueva.
No, the one left.
Negumereanu.
Negumereanu. That's who we're going with.
Yes, you're going with him to win by what method of victory? I think Ike say what you will about Ike, but he's pretty darn tough. I don't know if he would be put away here.
I'm going to go with decision in this one. I was going to go for, I'm going to go decision in this one.
All right, that's all we want to say about that fight. Let's move on to a really exciting fight between two up and coming middleweights, Jungyong Park against Gregory Rodriguez. Jungyong Park, his last fight, it's aged like wine. He beat Tafon Nchukwi by unanimous decision, left him in a pool of his own blood, and nearly strangled him to end the second round. And if you remember Tafon Nchukwi's last fight, it's Mike Rodriguez. The guy looked like a wrecking ball. He looked unstoppable. And I don't think middleweight was a weight class for him after all. And Jungyong Park taught him a good lesson there. Super impressive win by Jungyong Park. He also has a win over Marc-Andre Barrel, which is aged very well as well. Park will give serious pause, and he'll give a serious challenge to guys that aren't well-rounded. Gregory Rodriguez, he prefers to strike. His BJJ is not bad, but it's very clear to me that Park's the better wrestler here. I think he'll use that to win this fight. He's not the worst boxer either. He was able to box up Tafon Nchukwi, who was very tentative because of the takedown threat. He could do the same to Rodriguez here. Rodriguez does have some good power, but he's also got some durability issues as well. So you can't count out Park here. I think Park definitely wins this fight. And it is a pick'em. Do you think this is a pick'em type of fight?
Yeah, I feel like this could go either way. According to the odds as well on ESPN, how would you say that? Because I'm not very good with how pronouncing odds. How would you pick? Would you call that evens?
Yeah. They say it's a pick'em on the UFC broadcast that you get the same amount of money betting on both guys. There is no favorite. There is no underdog. It's a coin flip.
Yeah, and as we were talking about Gregory Rodriguez, you said he has durability issues. He did lose the Caceres series to Jordan Williams, who's by far not the greatest of UFC fighters. Since he's been inside the UFC, he has lost against Imavov and lost against Mickey Gall, and now he takes on Ian Gary, so he's probably going to go to lose 3 in a row. But he did beat Gregory Rodriguez, and I think Jungyong Park gets the better of Rodriguez in this one.
Yeah, Jungyong Park has continued to impress me. I keep on picking against the guy, and he does very well. I actually did pick him to beat Tafana Chukwi, but in previous fights, I thought he was outmatched, and he keeps on improving. And he actually had staph infection against Tafana Chukwi, so that's a true warrior. If you want to talk about true warriors, you got to talk about David Onama, who took this fight on a couple days' notice, sacrificing his 8-0 perfect record against Mason Jones, a former double champion in Cage Warriors, who always comes to fight, always comes to finish. This one is going to be very entertaining. If you don't know about David Onama, I would say he prefers to strike over grappling, but he's well rounded, I would say. And he might be the first UFC fighter coming out of Uganda. He trains with the great James Krause, so you can always expect good pep talk in between rounds. But honestly, I believe that Mason Jones is operating on another level. The guy started in the UFC with a super competitive fight of the night against Mike Davis, and after that, he was on his way to starching Alan Patrick before, of course, an eye poke caused the fight to be stopped. This was supposed to be the rematch with Patrick. Patrick pulled out, and Mason Jones will definitely have a tougher fight, won't he, on his hands with David Onama.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you were talking about David Onana. It's fantastic. Stepping in short notice, 2 days' notice as well, which is ridiculous. You got to have some sort of confidence or belief in yourself. But if he performs well in this fight, it's a win-win for him. Even if he loses, he's stepping in short notice. Quite honestly, he's not risking much inside the in this fight. He's guaranteed himself a UFC contract if he wins or loses because Dana White and UFC likes guys that step up and fight anytime, anywhere. And I do believe he's going to lose this one against Mason Jones. Mason Jones is a phenomenal fight and had one of the best UFC debuts I've ever seen in my life. By the way, against Mike Davis, a phenomenal fight. And then he had that little the no contest with Alan Patrick, which he was on course to win that fight, and he was meant to fight Alan Patrick again, but once again, Alan Patrick couldn't make it to the fight. And now we've got David Onana, and unfortunately, David Onana is going to lose his undefeated record.
Yeah, if Mason Jones wasn't as durable as we know him to be, Onama wouldn't be a terrible pick here. He does have a ton of first-round finishes. He's got really good pop on his punches, but Mason Jones has just as much, and I think Mason Jones gets a unanimous decision here, and that should be an exciting fight. If you want to talk about excitement, Tabitha Ricci, I think she gets a really exciting first-round submission in this fight against Maria Oliveira. Tabitha had the worst matchmaking possible in her UFC debut. She was fed to the wolves right away, and she fought the great Manon Fiorot in her first UFC fight, up a weight class, completely outmatched, and I never really gave her a chance in that fight, and she was finished brutally. But now she's back at her proper weight class against Maria Oliveira, who will not give her the same adversity on the feet. And I think Ricci can get these takedowns, and I think she probably gets a first-round armbar in this fight. I think she's definitely miles ahead of Oliveira on the ground, and she does train with Mackenzie Dern all the time in both striking and grappling. So I think Ricci should roll here.
Yeah, you were talking about there, Ricci getting the first round armbar, and if you look at Oliveira's career, all you have to do is take a little quick swipe of her losses, and 2 of them come via armbar. And guess what?
Tabitha Ricci is not bad at armbars herself, so I think first round armbar is the perfect pick here. This is the showcase fight that Ricci probably should have had instead of getting fed to the wolves against Manon Perot. So this is kind of a second chance at a first impression for Ricci here, and I think she'll do very well.
Yeah, I agree. I'll also go with a submission early, and just to be a little bit different, I'll go with a rear naked choke.
All right, yeah, that's definitely a possibility as well. Moving on to a middleweight fight between Jamie Pickett and Laureano Staropoli. This fight it's kind of weird, you know. Something about it is weird. Staropoli spent most of his career at welterweight, and he moved up to middleweight, and he fought Roman Dolidze, and he got dominated for most of that fight because Roman Dolidze was using basic stalling techniques, just taking them back, not advancing his position, little knees to the leg. That was about it. And we really didn't get to see how good was Staropoli at middleweight. And he's now finding a much easier fighter to fight, let's be honest, and Jamie Pickett, who doesn't have a tremendous grappling game, who doesn't have the same kind of power as Dolidze. And I think this is a better fight for Staropoli to show how good he can be at this weight class. I don't think Jamie Pickett is UFC caliber. He's one of these guys that lost his first 2 Dana White Contender Series fights. That kind of should have been a red flag that he doesn't belong in the UFC. So what does he do? He fights Almatavo, who's underweight. He's fighting up a weight class and straight up starches him. So that earns him the UFC shot. And then what happens in his debut? He fights Jordan Wright, who we think very lowly of, and he gets finished in the first round with the Travis Brown elbows. So it's very clear to me that Staropoli is the much better striker here with better output, better cardio. I think Staropoli gets the win here by unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm going with the same pick. As you mentioned, Jamie Pickett, had the failures in the Contender Series twice. One against Charles Bird, and the second one was against Puna Soriano. I don't know, is it Puna Soriano? And as we mentioned, he made his debut against Tafu. I forgot how do you say his next second?
Tafon and Chukwi.
And Chukwi, then he fought Jordan Wright, and as we talked about, me and you don't really rate Jordan Wright, and if you're losing to him, I feel like you're going to lose to Staropoli, and I'm going to go with a knockout on this one. I feel like we've seen Jamie Pickett finished in the past. He has 6 losses on his career, and he's been submitted in the past, but I feel like Staropoli is going to get a knockout here.
Yes, Staropoli, he was just sick of that welterweight weight cut, and as I said before, we really didn't get to see how much better he was at this weight class, but I think we will get to see it this time around. And moving on, we're talking about one of the most exciting fights on this card. Kama Worthy is fighting Jay Herbert. I can guarantee that somebody is going to be snoring on the canvas when it's all said and done. Both guys always go for that knockout. Worthy notoriously got the KO over Devontae Smith as a huge underdog. Jay Herbert suffered a knockout loss in his UFC debut. After that, he was submitted by Renato Moicano. I think this is a really good fight for Jay Herbert. Kama Worthy has been knocked out over, I believe it's 6 times now in his career. So at any time, the guy can just be put to sleep, as we saw against Jamie Malarkey, who did it in about a minute. So picking Kama Worthy is definitely something that will make you sweat the whole fight, because the guy can be put away at any time, and that's what I'm not doing. I'm picking Jay Herbert to get a spectacular first-round knockout here and get the performance of the night bonus as well.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, if you're betting on this fight, bet on a finish, because Jay Herbert has only been to the judges' scorecards once in his career. So that's ridiculous. He has a few submissions, but most of them are KOs or TKOs. And as you mentioned, Kama Worthy has been knocked out 6 times in his career, and that's not a good look. But the thing is, you get with Kama Worthy and Jay Herbert, they're going to swing, and I believe whoever lands first cleanly in this one is going to be the victorious. And I think Jay Herbert is going to be the quicker of the two, and I think Jay Herbert is going to connect before Commonwealthy does.
Yeah, I think Herbert has a slight speed advantage as well. I think this is a great showcase fight for Herbert. I think he should be a little bit bigger favorite. A lot of people probably aren't picking him because of the Trinaldo loss, but man, I believe he's past that. He's had time to improve, and I think he puts away worthy early in this fight. And we'll move on to a really fun flyweight matchup between Jeff Molina and Daniel Lacerda. This is going to be a really fun fight. If you watch Jeff Molina's last fight, it was the fight of the night against Arichi Lang, the Mongolian murderer. That fight was awesome. He broke the flyweight striking record for any fight. And I think that'll be the key to victory here. His super high output. And of course the James Cross is in his corner for this fight as well, encouraging him. And I think Molina gets this done here. I think Lacerda could get a couple takedowns here. He could knock out Molina here as well, but I think the volume, the pure volume from Molina and the great cardio too, I think that's what gets him a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, Daniel Lacerda also likes not going to the judges' scorecards, apparently. 11 wins, 5 TKOs, 6 submissions, 0 decisions, because he's never gone there. And his one loss was a TKO, so this one has got a guarantee to be a finish in this one, surely.
Yeah, Lacerda, his only loss was a shoulder injury, so you could argue he's undefeated. So this is not an easy tack for Molina here. This is probably going to be the best grappler he's fought in a while. So not an easy task for Molina, but if he keeps this on the feet and gets his jab going, gets some leg kicks, and just lets his hands go, I think he'll go far in this fight and get a unanimous decision.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, and I'm also going with the same pick as you said. I think this is going Jeff Molina, and I think this is going to be a decision.
Yeah, this is a longer card, but we only have 2 more fights to break down, and we'll start with Livinus Souza against Random Marcos. I got a feeling the loser of this fight probably gets cut. Souza was finished in the first round of our last fight by Lemos, but there's really no shame in that one. Lemos is on a roll, man. She's been starching girls left and right. Marcos, on the other hand, I kind of feel like she's been fed to the better prospects of the division over and over again, and she can't win. In her last fight against Luana Pinheiro, I thought she would win, but she did accidentally kick her an illegal up kick, I believe it was, that put away Pinheiro. I don't know if it did or didn't. Very controversial, but I thought Marcos would have lost her job had it not been for that DQ loss. And I think she does win here against Silva because somehow she makes these fights close. She muscles them down to the ground. Silva's BJJ, it's not as threatening as some of the fighters that Marcos has fought as of late. I think Marcos can just get enough control time here to secure a split decision. This fight, it's got split decision written all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, 100%. And if you look at the record of Random Marcos, 10 wins and 12 losses, not the prettiest of records. And I'm quite surprised that she's still in the UFC. And as you mentioned, whoever loses this fight is surely being cut from the UFC. And I think Random Marcos is going to be on the end of it. This is also a fight that I'm going on the other side. And I think Souza gets this one done.
Yeah, I think this is not going to be one of the better notable fights of the night, but I think the opener will be Jonathan Martinez stepping in on short notice against another guy who's coming in on short notice. This fight was just booked, I believe, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And the news was actually broken by my good friend at MMA.ideas on Instagram. The guy's getting scoops left and right. And this is one of the more notable ones. Martinez is very exciting to watch. He's not been having as much success as he once was. He was once on a streak there, but that momentum was stopped by Davy Grant in an epic comeback KO loss. And Zaviad, I believe his name, Zaviad Lavashvili. I'm barely figuring it out right now. Didn't have too much time to study this one, but I do know that Zaviad is very wrestle heavy. He's undefeated. He's the LFA bantamweight champion, and Martinez is going to throw one of those kicks. They're going to get caught, and he's going to get stuck on his back. And I don't think Martinez has the best get-up game. I think this is a good fight for Zaviad to come into the UFC and prove he belongs with the better guys. And he's another great fighter from the nation of Georgia. And if you know about Georgia, that country has a lot of momentum in MMA right now.
Right now, you literally took the words out of my mouth right now. I think that 8-1 inside the UFC in the last 9 fights or something like that.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about Zaviad, the kind of competition he's fought heading to the UFC, not the best. He's fought a ton of debutantes, actually. How many debutantes has he fought exactly? He's fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 debutantes. He's only fought 2 guys that weren't debutantes as a pro. That's pretty alarming, to be honest. But he was able to beat a 6-0 guy, a 24-10 guy. That was about it. So pick Zaviad at your own apparel. We're not too sure of what Zaviad's ceiling is because he has yet to be tested. But I think his wrestling does the job here against Martinez. This one could be a split decision too, with Zaviad getting more control time and Martinez striking on the feet. It's going to be a close one. But a lot of people don't know who Zaviad is, but they'll definitely know after this fight. I think it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I agree. I think. How do you pronounce his first name and second name?
Zaviad. Ladzavili. All right, I'll never say that last name again. That was terrible. That was a terrible butchering, but just call him Zaviad.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think Zaviad gets this one down. You were talking about his wrestling pedigree, and you talked about the guys that he's not for the best of competition, but he's still got potential. He was meant to fight Jack Shaw, which was, I believe, an even worse matchup for him. A really bad matchup. I feel like a Martinez fight for him to get introduced into the UFC is a good matchup for him. I feel like this is a fight that he can get tested, but come out and still win the fight. If he fought Jack Shaw, I believe he would have just he would have lost. Jack Shaw is an incredible prospect, but Zaviad, I think he gets this one done. I think Martinez loses this one.
And the fact that they booked Zaviad to fight Jack Shaw lets you know what the UFC thinks of him. They thought that the fight would be worth putting on a fight night. The fact that they thought that it was worth a booking. So that lets you know what they think of Zaviad. He is undefeated. He is the LFA bantamweight, the former bantamweight champion at LFA, which that's produced a lot of great UFC fighters. So he's got a lot to prove, and I think he will not lose his undefeated record in that fight. And it'll be a good way to open up what should be an eventful UFC Vegas 41, Costa versus Vettori. Hopefully we don't have the main event scrapped, because is there a good backup main event on this card? I don't think there is.
There could always be Kelvin Gastelum, but I don't think he could make it around on that quick.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Ali recently said his next fight probably is going to be at middleweight, so the future's uncertain for Kelvin Gastelum, but what is certain is that we'll be back next week to recap what should be a bananas card. Also, Bellator is going to Russia this Saturday. Fyodor Emelianenko fighting Timothy Johnson. I don't see this one getting out of the first round. These boys are going to swing wild, and one of them will fall. And I believe the one to win here will be Timothy Johnson. Timothy Johnson has been more active. Fyodor has only, in the past couple of years, his only win was Rampage Jackson. Is that a quality name? Yes, but
an atrocious Rampage Jackson, by the way.
A super out of shape Rampage Jackson. Rampage Jackson was in terrible shape for that fight. He never belonged at heavyweight. but he respected Fyodor so much he went ahead and took the fight. Timothy Johnson is a super legit heavyweight. He's had quality wins in the UFC, quality wins in Bellator as well. He worked his way to an interim title fight with Moldavsky. Unfortunately, he didn't win that fight, but I think he beats Fyodor just because of the inactivity, and he might have the quicker hands in this fight. And of course, Fedor not being 46, I believe he is. Yeah, the chin probably ain't there. The chin probably won't be there, but it will be there to be hit. And Timothy Johnson probably puts him away early.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Fedor will be a little bit. I feel like it's going to be too slow for Timothy Johnson in this one. The age will be a massive, massive factor taking part. And I think Fedor just gets clipped early on, which will be sad to see because, absolute legend in his prime, had some of the greatest fights that we've seen in MMA. And he's always been in the biggest controversy inside MMA as well. What would have happened if Fedor Emelianenko made his way to the UFC? We will never find out because it never happened. And I wish it did because we would have got a lot of answers and some phenomenal matchups that could have been made back in the day. But I think Timothy Johnson puts the lights out Emelianenko early on. And Emelianenko said this could be, or maybe not be his last fight. And I believe after he takes a big loss to Timothy Johnson, he's going to decide to hang him up.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was the right matchup for Fyodor. There's not a ton of hype for this one, like there would have been had he picked Overeem or Junior Dos Santos. Those fights were much more exciting. Were they more challenging? Probably yes, but yeah, it's might be a pretty big blow for Fedor to be knocked out in his hometown, maybe in his last fight. I don't know if you want to go out that way, but it is what it is. And Fyodor will be a legend, win or lose. He's in my top 10 of all time. Once went on a great 28-fight win streak, and his legacy will be immortal. But man, it's gonna be a tough fight to watch if you're a Fedor fan, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. This, as you mentioned, this is in Russia, so the card is very Russia heavy, and some very good fights that I'm looking forward to. Just quick names: Aiden Lee, the British fighter, fighting out of Birmingham, traveling over to Russia, fighting Alexander Ostradov, a very good fight. Brian Moore as well. You've got the Irish fighter over there, and you've also got this woman might ring a bell, Dariina Mazdujic. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I've probably destroyed her name, but you might recognize her because she fought a 514-pound man, and she knocked him out, and then she's fighting in Bellator this weekend. We got Tokov, the Vladimir Tokov and Antonoli Tokov fighting, and we got Usman Nurmagomedov as well returning.
Yeah, I think Usman Nurmagomedov is always a good bet, even though he's always a huge favorite. I think he'll get the job done for the foreseeable future. I don't know how well he'll do at the top of the division against the Peter Creeley and the Patricky Pitbulls of the world, but for now, I think he's going to continue to look very good. And also that co-main event, that heavyweight matchup is a firecracker of a fight. Minikov, he actually knocked out Timothy Johnson. So, it's kind of awkward for him to be in the co-main event slot here, but I think he will be able to put away the Surinamese Salmana in the first round, in my opinion. I think Minikov, he could set himself up for maybe he could be the one to fight Fyodor Emelianenko if he were to fight again after the loss.
Yeah, Vitili Minikov, by the way, he's legit. He's legit as they come. He's a former Bellator heavyweight champion. He knocked out in round one Alexander Volkov back in the day. This guy's legit, and I think he's going to put out Said Soma in round number 1, 2. This guy has finishes. If you look at his record, finishes for days. Most of them are in the early part, round 1, round number 2. A lot of fights over there in Fight Nights Global. Even knocked out Antonio Silva as well. But his loss did come against Czech Congo. But that's a fantastic fight, and this one is definitely going to be finished. And I think Minikov is going to finish his Said Soma in round 1.
Yeah, I think this is going to be. I think that fight will be better for the Russian crowd. they won't be as devastated watching that one. I think they'll be happier for that one. But yeah, a lot of big stuff happening in the MMA world this weekend. Two really quality main events. And next week, as I said, we'll be back for sure to preview UFC 267. That card is stacked beyond belief back on Fight Island. Anything to add before we leave?
Oh, Paddy Pimblett, Terence McKinney, is it McKinney?
McKinney, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Terence McKinney, yes.
They're going back and forth. They kind of want to fight, but that's a topic for another episode.
Yeah, I believe Terence McKinney's booked right now. So
yeah.
I believe Paddy Pimblett is booked as well, but we don't know who the opponent is. I believe that would be super competitive because Jared Gordon was calling out Paddy Pimblett on Twitter. He was like, "Why would you accept the call out if you already had a fight lined up?" So fight news for Paddy Pimblett fans will be coming soon, and both of us are. So we could see also a Paddy Pimblett interview coming to the channel at some point.
Oh man!
Of course, if he has time for little people like us in this space.
Yeah, I had the pleasure to talk to him before. This whole breakout, his last ever fight in Cage Warriors against Decky Dalton, I believe it was, or is it? No, it was Davadi Martinez. I spoke to him, and then obviously he had his UFC contract given to him, and then he had that UFC breakout. And oh man, yeah, so he's a phenomenal fighter, and I'm very excited to see what happens next for him. But yeah, this has been a very long episode, 1 hour and 26 minutes of talking. So you are probably tired of us, so we should probably go.
Yeah, 100%. This is the longest episode we have in a while, but there was a lot to cover, and this is a 14-fight UFC card. We have to talk about anything to showcase there. The Iceman, Chuck Liddell, the MMA bobblehead. Shout out to those guys.
A little bit of controversy with this man at the moment, but we keep going on, Oscar.
Honestly, no huge controversy. A lot of people switched up on the guy immediately without knowing any details, but now we know no charges have been filed against him, and his legacy will not be damaged like some people thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we're on the topic of being locked up, kind of. Luis Pena.
Yeah, my goodness, yeah. Read the report on that. That's very unpleasant. It shows you the UFC does not exactly treat you the same based on your star power. John Jones, of course, still with the UFC. Will he ever fight again? Who even knows at this point? But I got a feeling it'll be at least a year before we see him compete again, and that will make space for Stipe to get a title shot because the guy's been begging for a title shot for a long time now, even saying he'll go to one championship and fight Arjan Buller to get that title shot. That's how desperate he is. A lot of entertaining stuff coming up in the MMA space, and we have 2 back-to-back UFC cards on the horizon. We stated the recent main event, not that great, but they got to save some of these super high-quality fights for the big pay-per-views, and that's what they're doing. If you look at these pay-per-view lineups, they're excellent. We've talked your ears off, guys. Make sure to enjoy the fights.
Yeah, 100%. For me and Oscar, very goodbye. And we'll see you next week when we talk about some stars that have probably broke out this week. And we'll get to talk about UFC 267. And I'm very excited for that one. And anyway, thank you for joining us. This has been a 1 hour and 30-minute episode. And we're going to finally wrap it up. So I hope you enjoyed the fights this weekend. I praise to God that Fedor Emelianenko is safe this weekend. You don't want to see a legend get hurt. But anyway, he's in for a tough test against Timothy Johnson. But yeah, I always find topics to find out of the blue. But anyway, we've got to go. We've been here for a very long time. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for joining me. From me and Oscar, a very good